guys, welcome to Code Tunnel. My name is Mukesh and I love to teach. In this video, we are going to see what are Python functions and how they're helpful. We're going to see what is a Python function, what are these different kind of arguments, what is default argument, what are keyword arguments, what are positional arguments, and how they help us. In any programming language, you'll find tons of functions which are pre-built and which programmers write for their own use, and you can do too after watching this video. But before that, please like and subscribe to this channel. Okay, like this video and subscribe to the channel and share with the people who might be interested in Python. Also, do consider joining our WhatsApp community. That link is in the description. Okay, so let's get started. So Python functions or functions in general are in any programming language are a is a group of lines, group of statements which get bundled inside a particular block, which get bundled, and that piece of bundle can be used multiple times. In my opinion, the shortest definition of Python a function. What they really do, what the functions really do. They basically help you bundle multiple statements into a packet, and that packet you can use multiple times. Of course, this is not the real definition of function. So what I'm trying to say, let me explain you. So let's go to the coding. Okay. So first we have to open our VS Code. Just search VS Code or just open it. Okay. Open a new folder by clicking here. Okay. Open a new folder. I would recommend you to also let's make one particular folder which we can use for Python series. So our this Python series. So let's consider this only Python series that we have created in the first video, and open it. You can create your own new Python folder and then create a file like this. Okay. You can create a file. Okay. You can create a file like this. Let's call it Python function.py. Okay, function.py. Function.py. Close this things. Have this R file function.py. What we have to do, I say like functions are basically a statements which bundle your code. Okay, it's like a block which will have a lot of code inside it. Okay, so imagine what's the problem. The problem is that you want to add two numbers. Problem is that you want to add two numbers. Okay, or want to check if the two numbers are less. One is the smallest one. Want to check one is the smallest one. What you'll do? Have two numbers a equal to 10, b equal to 20, and what you'll do if a is less than b, print a, else what do you do? Else print. So this is your piece of code. This is a piece of code for basically getting the smallest of the two numbers. Okay, so let's run this and see if it works. So you can place this play button and what happens. See here, prints you 10 is the output, and 10 is the smallest number because this is. Now you want this functionality to be bundled somewhere so that you don't have to write multiple places wherever you want the smallest of the two numbers. How you gonna do that? Let's write the function. How we define a function? So the keyword to define a function is def, D-E-F, definition. You are defining the function, definition of the function. Let's call it the smallest. Okay, let's call it the name. This is the name of the function. This is the name of the function. How you do it? Once you get this, you can define the name of the function and then pass the basically the arguments. You define the arguments what are it is what this function is going to take as parameters. Okay, so you can call a comma b. Okay, these are the two parameters, these are the two numbers which it is going to compare. And then you can write colon and then start defining how it's works. You can say if a is less than b, the same piece of code, but same piece of code, but I have to say a two, like then else going to happen else print what if it is a smaller than print a, else print b. Now we have bundled that particular piece of code for any a and b. And how this is called definition. What do we call this? This we call as definition. Call this definition. Okay, definition. And now you have to use that function. You want to know the smallest of a and b. Okay, so you call this function smallest, and this is a call. This is called per function call. This is called a function call. This is called a function definition. You have defined it, and to call a function, you have to just in the brackets have to pass the values. A is 10 and my b will be 20. Okay, my a is 10 and b will be 20. Let's see what output we get on the terminal. Let's close the terminal, run it again, and you can see that this particular code gives you 10 as an output. This 10 is basically the arguments that you have passed. Okay, 10 is the argument, 20 is the argument. So A is 10, B is 20. Okay, now again you want to compare some other values. You can see it's so much flexible, it's so much useful. You can use it multiple times. Let's call 25, 24, and or 13. Let's see what we get. So for this particular thing, we are going to print it 10, and for this one 24 is there, so we are going to get, so run this. Smallest of the two number is 10 for this one and 13 for this one. 10 and 13. So this is a useful piece of code because you can use it multiple times because it's got bundled. You can use it multiple times. Okay, you don't have to write that particular logic again and again. This is the usefulness. This is the utility of a function. Function helps you bundle a piece of code which you can call with different arguments at different positions in your code and different part of your code. Okay, and that being said, let's try to understand these arguments, what these arguments are and how different kind of arguments we can pass. Imagine you don't want to pass, you always want to compare a number with 5. Okay, so what you are going to do? You want the value of a to be 5 if it is not passed. If it is not passed, for example, if someone passes only 10, okay, do you want Python to assign some value to the other value, for example, p? So that you can do by using this something called optional arguments, sorry, default values. Okay, so b will get the default value of pi if it is not passed. Okay, you have to consider the order well. So the first argument, this one, they're called positional argument. This a is 10, but you haven't passed b value of b 40. Uh, if you don't pass the value 40, then Python will assign it 5. But if you pass the value, then it's not going to assign. Let's run the both situations. So if B is 5 and A is 10, so we are going to get 5 as the output. You can see 5 is our output. Okay, 5 is our output. Run this, 5 is our, because the 5 will be smallest. A is 10 and B is 5. But if you pass something, examples B is 6. So let's see what we get. Clear the terminal, you can use clear command. Run it. You can see it's 6. It's taking. If you pass, it's taking new values. Otherwise, taking by default as 5. These are called default values or default parameters. Okay, default values. Okay. Also, you can have infinite number of arguments in Python. Okay, infinite number of arguments in Python. Let's do one example. You want to take an sum of all the values. Okay, you want to just sum all the arguments that's passed. So let's define a function which calls sum. Okay, somehow it's defined, and what you want out of it is want out of it, like once you call this sum, you can pass any number of argument like 2 comma 3 comma 5 comma 8 comma 10 comma 20, and it adds up all the values and print this. This is what we expect out of this function. How you can do, like, you can pass infinite number of parameters. You want this kind of functionality. Okay, so let's define it. Use the keyword def and then sum, and all is called keyword arguments or arguments. Geez. When you use the star and args, Python understands that the arguments can be infinite in number, and it stores them in a list or array. Okay, it stores them in an list or an array and gives it to you. So it will be very clear. Just a minute. Let's Okay. So let's print first what we get here. Okay. This is our function. Okay, this is our function which takes argument and prints it. Very simple. Let's call this function. Let's call this function. So we have to call it. We can use this. You have to use the function name and then a bracket. Name and a bracket. And then you have to just pass the arguments 1, comma 2, comma 3, comma 4, comma 7, comma 8, comma. Let's run it. You can see we pass these values to this parameter, somehow printing all of those. Basically, you pass it like this, and if your function definition has a star sign in it, then this particular variable args variable will have hold all these arguments, that you have given. It's going to hold all of those. How you can sum all of that? So just you can sum it for list for values args. Consider a variable which we will call, we won't have sum. Previously we'll have just 0 as a sum, and then we'll keep eating all of those sum. This is a function which takes the arguments and adds them and then prints them one by one. It adds them. This is something what we call sum is equal to, let's go for to understand. So the new sum will be the old sum plus the new value. So it will add up all the values and then print them. Now let's run this program. See, it adds up all those numbers. Sum comes out to be 34. Okay, sum is 34 here, and our function is working. Okay, and this is how we have arguments in this one. Apart from that, we also have something called keyword arguments. They're called positional arguments, or just because the way they are positioned, the way they are position determines their value. So basically, the first one will get assigned at the 0th index, the second one will get assigned at the first index, and whatever. Position will determine the value of the arguments. But there are something called keyword arguments, which are a bit different, and we'll say them in if, when we require them. But that's the basics of Python for that function. This is the basic of Python functions, and hope you learn something. Why Python functions are used, or why functions in general are used. It's to make your code more uh, modular, reusable. Okay, reusability of the code increases once you write functions. When you write your piece of block in a function, the readability of that particular function increases, and the usability, you can use it multiple places. Hope you like this video and learn something from it. Please like this video, and we'll see in the next video